Sorry about that, I didn't have my microphone on. Let's start over. Okay, so Niscaya, confidence. In his Upadeshamrta, Srila Rupa Goswami has instructed the practitioners of devotional service to be confident. Until this confidence is achieved, one will remain doubtful. Doubtful persons never have auspiciousness. How then will they have faith in unalloyed devotional service when they are doubtful at heart? It is said in Bhagavad Gita 4.40, Agyash cha shradadhanascha sangshayatma vinashati nayam lokos dinaparo nasukam samshayatmanaha. Quote, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Unquote. One who has faith is certainly without doubts, because the word faith means firm conviction. As long as doubts are there, firm conviction cannot remain in the heart. Therefore, faithful living entities are always doubtless. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered all Vaishnavas to first understand three truths: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. There are 10 principal subjects in the three truths. The first is that the Vedic literatures are the only authority. In order to ascertain the truth, one must accept authority. There are 9 realities which can only be known through the Vedic authority. Different scriptures have defined different authorities. Some say pratyaksha, or direct understanding. Some say anumana, or hypothetical understanding. And some say upamana, or analogies, are authorities. And others include other subjects as authorities. All other authorities, however, are considered auxiliary authorities by the Vaishnava literatures propounded by Sriman Mahaprabhu. Therefore, the self-perfect authority received through the disciplic succession is the only principal authority to be accepted. All the natures that exist in this world are divided into 2 categories. Some are inconceivable, and some are conceivable. The material natures are conceivable because they automatically awaken in the course of thinking. Spiritual nature is inconceivable because it is not perceived by people's poor fund of knowledge. Inconceivable natures cannot be known without self-realization. Therefore, there is no entrance into inconceivable subjects for authorities like pratyaksha, that's direct understanding, which are included in the category of argument. That is why Sri Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, as quoted from the Mahabharata, Yudyoga Parva says, quote, the state of achintya, achintya, inconceivability, cannot be ascertained by argument. It is that which is beyond the 24 elements of material nature. Unquote. There is no entrance for pratyaksha and anumana in that state. So again, pratyaksha is direct experience, physical, material experience, and anumana is hypothetical, philosophical understanding. So again, there's no entrance for pratyaksha and anumana in that state. In order to know the inconceivable nature, self-realization is the only means. Self-realization is almost impossible for ordinary people. Seeing people's terrible madness, the most merciful Supreme Lord manifested the Vedic literatures. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 20, 122, 124, 125, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, quote, the conditioned soul cannot revive his Krishna consciousness by his own effort, but out of causeless mercy, Lord Krishna compiled the Vedic literature and its supplements, the Puranas. The Vedic literatures give information about the living entity's eternal relationship with Krishna, which is called Sambandha. The living entity's understanding of this relationship and acting accordingly is called Abhideya. Returning home back to Godhead is the ultimate goal of life and is called Prayojana. Devotional service, or sense activity for the satisfaction of the Lord, is called abhideya, because it can develop one's original love of Godhead, which is the goal of life. This goal is the living entity's topmost interest and greatest wealth. Thus one attains the platform of transcendental loving service unto the Lord." Unquote. Well, there you have it. Summary of the whole thing. So to know the inconceivable nature, the Vedic authority alone should be accepted. There is one other consideration in this regard. The Vedic knowledge received through the Guru Parampara is called Amnaya. There are so many subjects in the Vedas, and there are various instructions for different qualifications. Among all qualifications, the qualification for devotional service is the topmost. By the strength of their devotional service, the previous Mahajanas, or great souls, have awakened to self-realization and thereby separately written instructions regarding the qualifications for devotional service as mentioned in the Vedas. Therefore, the Vedic statements ascertained by the previous Mahajanas as relating to the qualifications for devotion are all called Amnaya, and it is necessary to learn them. It is impossible to enter into the inconceivable nature without receiving the full mercy of the spiritual master. The instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this regard is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 21:27 through 136. Quote, "The following example may be given. Once a learned astrologer came to the house of a poor man and seeing his distressed condition, questioned him. The astrologer asked, 'Why are you unhappy? Your father was very wealthy, but he did not disclose his wealth to you because he died elsewhere.'" Just as the words of the astrologer Sarvagya gave news to the poor man's treasure, the Vedic literatures advise one about Krishna consciousness when one is inquisitive to know why he is in a distressed material condition. By the words of the astrologer, the poor man's connection with the treasure was established. Similarly, Vedic literature advises us that our real connection is with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although being assured of his father's treasure, the poor man cannot acquire this treasure by such knowledge alone. Therefore, the astrologer had to inform him of the means whereby he could actually find the treasure. The astrologer said, "The treasure is in this place, but if you dig towards the southern side, the wasps and drones will rise, and you will not get your treasure. If you dig on the western side, there is a ghost who will create such a disturbance that your hands will not even touch the treasure. If you dig on the northern side, there is a big black snake that will devour you if you attempt to dig up the treasure. However, if you dig up a small quantity of dirt on the eastern side, your hands will immediately touch the pot of treasure." Revealed scriptures conclude that one should give up fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, and the mystic yoga system, and instead take to devotional service, by which Krishna can be fully satisfied. Unquote. So that was all Lord Chaitanya speaking, that whole kind of section there. One second. So Davey's having a hard time viewing the stream. I don't see any technical difficulties from my side. I don't know what's wrong. YouTube says everything is healthy. Well, I'll keep reading and you guys can watch it later as a video. When a person who desires spiritual perfection, this is important. When a person who desires spiritual perfection, hears the conclusions regarding the soul from the spiritual master, then his heart becomes pure and he proceeds towards the lotus feet of Krishna. Naya is the only authority regarding the goal of life. One should consider the other 9 realities through this authority, and this understanding manifests in the pure heart on the strength of Naya. This is called self-realization, and this is the basis of life's goal. So, just real quick, Naya is basically getting knowledge from the parampara through disciplic succession from living entities that are perfect, a spiritual master. They see everything, they see beyond material nature, they see the spiritual world because they live in the spiritual world, and they see everything in its proper position. So when you take knowledge from them, when you take knowledge from such personalities, and then you take it for granted that they're seeing things in the right way, then your direct perception, the other 9 processes, or the other 9 realities, we should consider all realities from that point of view. And then and also in the same way, other evidences, direct perception, this and that, in the point of view of the spiritual master, then those become also valuable. So sometimes for example, Prabhupada will explain Krishna consciousness in something that we can directly perceive, like the sun shining in a room or something like that, and lighting up a room, and Prabhupada says this is what Krishna consciousness is like when everything is lit up like this. But it's your consciousness that's lit up. Or Prabhupada talks about, seeing a mountain in the distance and seeing more and more about the mountain as you get closer and closer. And it's the same thing. You see Krishna in the distance, he may seem impersonal, but as you get closer and closer to Krishna, he becomes more personal. So this is pretty interesting stuff. So let's continue. Regarding the first reality, the Naya says, the Supreme Brahman, Sri Hari, is the only worshipable Lord. His impersonal conception is called Brahman, which is nothing but his bodily effulgence. Just talking about that. That Supreme Lord Hari is, in one of his expansions, becomes the supersoul, or controller who creates, maintains, and destroys the universes. Lord Hari is none other than Krishna. The supersoul is none other than Vishnu, and his bodily effulgence is none other than Brahman. By discussing the truth about the omnipotent Lord Hari, all one's doubts regarding the Supreme Lord are cleared. Until these doubts are cleared, one cultivates knowledge by discussing impersonal Brahman as opposite to material knowledge. Again, in order to understand the Supersoul, the expansion of the Lord, Ashtanga Yoga, is conceived. Only when one is free from all doubts does he attain unflinching devotion to Krishna. Hare Krishna. According to the knowledge of Amnaya, the second reality is considered as follows. The Supreme Lord Hari is naturally full of inconceivable potencies. Through one of his potencies, he is manifested as indistinct Brahman. This is his impersonal potency. Again, through his unlimited potencies, including Brahman and Paramatma, He manifests his supremacy as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although the impersonal and personal potencies are contained in him, still the personal potencies are predominant. As stated in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, Parashaktir Vivideva Suryate Swabhaviki Jnana Bhalakriyacha. Quote, his potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. Unquote. The spiritual potencies known as Sandini, Sanvit, and Hladini, the Lord's potencies of external existence, cognizance, and bliss, are known by the pure devotees. About the third reality, the Amnaya, says that the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is full of spiritual rasas, or mellows. By the power of that rasa, both the spiritual and material worlds become maddened. That is the constitution of Lord Krishna. Therefore Lord Krishna has said, quote, I am the source of Brahman. Due to the power of that supreme rasa, there are unlimited varieties in both the spiritual and material worlds. The rasa in the rasa in the spiritual world is pure. The rasa in this material world is his shadow. Again, by the Lord's inconceivable potency, the unlimited rasas of the spiritual world have been manifested in the Vrindavan pastimes of this world. The pure spirit soul is eligible for spiritual rasa. To attain that supreme rasa is the living entity's dharma, or duty. A living entity attains that on the strength of his devotional service. Attaining the supreme Brahman is devoid of rasa, or dry. That is never to be strived for. There is no manifestation of rasa in the realization of Paramatma. Only devotional service to Krishna is full of rasa. While considering the fourth reality, the Amnaya says that the living entities are minute particles of the spiritual sun, Krishna, and they are innumerable. As the spiritual world is manifested by Krishna's chit, or spiritual potency, and as the material world is manifested by the inferior illusory energy, similarly the living entities are manifested by a portion of the spiritual energy. Krishna's spiritual form has all qualities in form, and those qualities are naturally present in the living entities in minute quantity. The independent nature of Krishna is found insignificantly in the living entities. For this reason, the living entities claim to be independent. As a result, all living entities have developed different propensities. By one propensity, the living entity searches for his own happiness, and by another propensity, he searches for Krishna's happiness. Thus, living entities are divided into two groups, those searching for their own happiness and those searching for Krishna's happiness. Those who search for Krishna's happiness are called Nityamukta, and those who search for their own happiness are called Nityabada. In this regard, all inconceivable natures are under the subordination of spiritual time. The time factor of the spiritual nature is a state of eternal present. But in the inferior illusory energy, there are three states of existence, past, present, and future. So whatever considerations arise in this regard, if related with the spiritual time factor, then no doubts will remain. You get that? No doubts will remain because in the spiritual time factor there's no past, there's no future. There's just the moment, and you only live in the moment. So there's no question of doubting. Just like pure devotional service is, you just do the service and you don't worry about the result. And you don't worry about getting a result. You don't strive to get. You're just satisfied with just doing the service. You have no doubt then about your existence. But if seen otherwise, so let's see here. So whatever considerations arise in this regard, if related with spiritual time factor, then no doubts will remain. But if seen otherwise, then doubts will remain. Why did a pure spirit soul search for his own happiness? You might ask. If one puts forward such a question, then doubts arising from the material time factor will manifest. Now, isn't that interesting? Because you're asking, when did one search for their independence. And then you have to then therefore doubt so many things. Well, maybe not this, maybe not that, maybe not this, maybe not that. That's all doubting so many things. So if one can give up such doubts, then he can perform devotional service. Otherwise, there will only be a series of arguments. If arguments are related to the inconceivable nature, then anarthas arise. I'll read that again because it's a little amazing. If arguments are related to the inconceivable nature, then anarthas arise. Why is that anartha? Because you can't argue about the inconceivable nature. You have nothing to argue. It is simply something that is explained by those that are self-realized, and you simply accept what they have said as truth, because it is beyond the ability of... this was one of the arguments, and hypothetical arguments was one of the proofs. One was the pratyaksha, and one was anumana, and anumana is this arguing. It's very interesting. The teachings of Amnaya regarding the fifth reality is this: the living entities who are searching for their own happiness accept Maya, who is situated nearby, and thus enjoy happiness and distress under the grip of material time. Karma is nothing but a blind wheel created by Maya. Those who have not contacted Maya have no connection with karma. The living entities who are searching for their own pleasure receive from the wheel of Maya gross and subtle bodies as a means to enjoy. This blind wheel is found in unlimited forms, but just as it was easy for a living entity to enter, it will be easy to leave at the time of liberation. The living entities who are under the blind wheel of Maya are called Nitya-baddha, eternally conditioned. In this regard, the word Nitya is applied in regard to material time. When by the touch of spiritual substance, the spiritual time factor is awakened, then their conditioned nature is seen as temporary. By the mercy of sadhus, mahajanas, and Krishna, and by the strength of many lifetimes of pious activities in devotional service, the conditioned soul achieves auspiciousness. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22:45 and in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:51-53. Quote, by good fortune one becomes eligible to cross the ocean of nescience, and when one's term of material existence decreases, one may get an opportunity to associate with pure devotees. By such association, one's attraction to Krishna is awakened. O my Lord, O infallible Supreme Person, when a person wandering throughout the universe becomes eligible for liberation from material existence, he gets an opportunity to associate with devotees. When he associates with devotees, his attraction for you is awakened. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal of the Supreme Devotees, and the Lord of the Universe. Unquote. By the association of sadhus, material distress is vanquished. By the mercy of Krishna, one attains firm faith. Then, by the strength of his devotional service and Krishna's mercy, a living entity cuts the bondage of Maya and attains Krishna's service. By the mercy of Krishna, the Vada Mukta Jivas, those who achieve freedom from bondage, easily attain Salokya, the abode of Krishna, with those who have never entered into Maya because of searching for Krishna's happiness. The conclusion of Amnaya regarding the sixth reality is this. So continuing on. Lord Krishna and all other things are connected by a relationship of achintya bheda bheda, inconceivably simultaneously one and different. That is why the Vedas have many statements supporting oneness and many supporting difference. In the conclusions of those ignorant of the truth, only a portion of the Vedas are accepted. In the conclusion of the knowers of the truth, the purport of all the Vedas is accepted. Those who have a thirst for worshipping the Lord learn from the teachings of Amnaya that Lord Krishna is all-pervading and one without a second. Shri Krishna is the absolute truth. That absolute truth possesses all energies. Although the living entities in the material world are manifested by his energies, still he remains without a second. The ingredients are constitutionally non-different from Krishna, but in the material creation, everything other than Krishna is a transformation of his energy, and therefore eternally separate from him. This eternal oneness and difference is naturally inconceivable because it is beyond the range of the living entity's material intelligence. When the living entity's spiritual intelligence is awakened, pure knowledge of the inconceivable oneness and difference is aroused. Keeping firm faith in the statements of Amnaya, by the mercy of Krishna, the devotees can clearly see the truth of the inconceivable oneness and difference. If we use material consideration to understand this, it becomes theoretical. When one achieves knowledge of these 7 realities through self-realization by the strength of Amnaya, then it may be said that one has Sambandha Jnana. Oh, that's just Sambandha, right? Knowledge of one's relationship with the Lord. In reply to Srila Sanatana Goswami's question, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has elaborately spoken on the science of one's relationship with the Lord. So I just want to stop there for a second, and there is so much knowledge just dropped there by Bhaktivinoda Thakura, but there were 7 main points, and he described them very lucidly, so it almost, I just kind of, maybe he did it and it went right past me, but he defined some things. But at the end, he clearly defines what he was just talking about, which was Sambandha, talking about what is the position of the Lord, what is the position of time, and what was the position between Brahman and Paramatma, like several different things, and some very amazing details were brought about. And so it's Prabhupada generally gives us a very simple understanding of Sambandha, where he says that you just understand that you're a servant of Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakura obviously is expanding this and making it more elaborate by saying that Sambandha is knowing your relationship with Krishna, but to know your relationship with Krishna, by reading this, it becomes apparent that you must know all of Krishna's different energies, and then where do you reside and where are you meant to reside. That's a very thorough understanding of Sambandha. And so, simple enough, all you have to do is read this book, and then you'll get it pretty easily. And obviously continuing to read Prabhupada's books that will come out in various ways, but really fascinating stuff. I always love reading this book. Okay, so Lord Chaitanya was speaking to Sanatana Goswami. He has elaborately spoken on the science of one's relationship with the Lord. So, talking about Sambandha, as given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 2102. So he says, quote, "Who am I? Why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? If I do not know this, how can I be benefited?" Unquote. Those persons who want the greatest benefit in the form of achieving devotion to Krishna should all ask these questions to their spiritual master. By hearing the proper answers to these questions from the mouth of one's guru, all one's doubts will be cleared and firm faith will awaken. Do not give up deliberations as useless, as stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 2:1117. Quote, a sincere student should not neglect the discussion of such conclusions, considering them controversial, for such discussions strengthen the mind. Thus one's mind becomes attached to Krishna. This is a great verse, because when you read what that section that actually Krishnadas Kaviraj is talking about, it's relatively controversial about I really can't exactly remember, but it's there seems to be some contradiction in the statements of the previous masters and the Vedas. There seems to be contradictions, so therefore it seems controversial to discuss it and say, well, because maybe you'll find out somebody's wrong in there. Well, that's a pure devotee, or that's said in the Vedas, and it's wrong, and that is the potentiality of it being controversial. But Krishnadas Kaviraj tells us basically to have faith and go on discussing, because we have to strengthen our mind, and strengthening that mind means that we understand that the Vedas are right, the spiritual master is right, another spiritual master is right. They're all right. If it is Amnaya, meaning transcendental philosophy, then they're all correct. and it's up to us to see how they're all correct by deliberations and discussion. So a sincere student should not neglect the discussion of such conclusions, considering them controversial, for such discussions strengthen the mind. Thus one's mind becomes attached to Sri Krishna. Now see, continuing here, now see, among 10 realities, the first 8 are related with the authority and one's relationship with the Lord. One will receive all information from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's answer to Sri Sanatana Goswami. Regarding authority, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 20:124. Quote, the Vedic literatures give information about Sambandha, the conditioned soul's relationship with Krishna, Abhideya, the regulative activities of the conditioned soul for reviving that relationship, and Prayojana, the ultimate goal of life. Unquote. Regarding the second basic truth, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 20:152, 155, 157, quote, O Sanatana, please hear about the eternal form of Lord Krishna. He is the absolute truth, devoid of duality, but present in Vrindavan as the son of Nanda Maharaj. The original Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. His original name is Govinda. He is full of opulences, and his eternal abode is known as Goloka Vrindavan. There are 3 kinds of spiritual processes for understanding the absolute truth: the process of speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and Bhakti-yoga. According to these 3 processes, the absolute truth is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Should have brought some water. Unquote. Regarding Krishna's energies, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 111. You can see all this is in chapter 20. His conversations with Sanatana Goswami. Quote, Lord Krishna naturally has 3 energetic transformations, and these are known as the spiritual potency, the living entity potency, and the illusory potency. Unquote. Krishna is full of rasa, as explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text number 153. Quote, Krishna is the original source of everything and the sum total of everything. He appears as the supreme youth, and his whole body is composed of spiritual bliss. He is the shelter of everything and master of everyone. Unquote. The instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regarding the conditional position of the living entity is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 20, 108 and 109. This is that famous verse, Jivara Srupoya Krishnara Nityadas, eternally a servant. The living entity's constitutional position is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. He is like a molecular particle of sunshine or fire. Unquote. Regarding conditioned living entities, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the following descriptions in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 10, 22:10 and 20:117. Quote, the living entities, jivas, are divided into 2 categories. Some are eternally liberated and others are eternally conditioned. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external... Forgetting Krishna? Forgetting Krishna, not forgetting Krishna, but forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the external feature, from time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy, Maya, gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. 1 second. Concerning the living entities, the Lord says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:11, those who are eternally liberated are always awake to Krishna consciousness, and they render transcendental loving services at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. They are to be considered eternal associates of Krishna, and they are eternally enjoying the transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. Unquote. regarding simultaneous oneness and difference. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 20:108 says, quote, "The living entity is the marginal energy of Krishna and the manifestation, simultaneously one and different from the Lord." Unquote. When the living entity's relationship with the Lord is revived by the association of Amnaya, then Abhideya is understood. Devotional service to Krishna is that Abhideya. The purport is that whatever the scriptures specify as one's prime duty is called Abhideya. In this regard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 22:17 and 18, quote, "Devotional service to Krishna is the chief function of the living entity. There are different methods for the liberation of the conditioned souls, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, but all are dependent on bhakti. But for devotional service, all other methods for spiritual realization are weak and insignificant. Unless one comes to the devotional service of Lord Krishna, jnana and yoga cannot give the desired results." Unquote. Sadhana bhakti is called Abhideya. That sadhana bhakti is divided into two, Vaidhi and Raganuga. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is of many varieties. In some places 64 limbs are given, and in some places 9 limbs are given. The preaching of ninefold devotional service is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7:523. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnuho, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Quote, Prahlad Maharaj said, "Hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming His servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto Him, in other words, serving Him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service." Unquote. When a conditioned living entity engages his mind at the lotus feet of Krishna with his mind, body, and words, that is called bhakti. The difference in bhakti from karma and jnana are very subtle. Many times, the limbs of bhakti and karma appear similar. When those limbs are connected with separate desires, they turn into limbs of karma. When those limbs are connected with dry thoughts of Brahman, they turn into limbs of jnana. In some limbs, there is neither karma or jnana involved. The fruits of karma that lead one to the service of Krishna alone are called limbs of bhakti. The fruits of karma that lead one to his own enjoyment are called karma. The karma that leads one to merge with the Lord is called impersonal jnana. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami has given the symptom of bhakti in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 119 as follows: Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna nushilanam bhaktir uttama. Quote, "One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service." Unquote. To perform the limbs of devotional service according to the dictation of vidhi, or prescribed rules, it is called Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. The service performed out of spontaneous attachment to Krishna is called raga bhakti. The devotion of the Vrajavasis is called ragatmika. An imitation of their devotional service is called raganuga bhakti. Vaidhi bhakti starts from shraddha and proceeds up to rati, when it becomes one with Raganuga bhakti. Raganuga bhakti is always forceful. This is the 9th principle. According to the statements of Amnaya, the 10th principle is that prema is the prayojana, or supreme goal. The states from sadhana bhakti up to the attainment of prema are described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 23, 9 through 13 by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows. Quote, if one, by good fortune, a living entity, develops faith in Krishna, he begins to associate with devotees. When one is encouraged in devotional service by the association of devotees, one becomes free from all unwanted contamination by following the regulative principles in chanting and hearing. When one is free from all unwanted contamination, he advances with firm faith. When firm faith in devotional service awakens, a taste for hearing and chanting also awakens. After taste is awakened, a deep attachment arises, and from that attachment, the seed of love for Krishna grows in the heart. When that ecstatic emotional stage intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. Such love is life's ultimate goal and the reservoir of all pleasure. Unquote. Those who have doubts in these 10 principal teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not qualified for devotional service. When doubts arise, one's devotional service becomes corrupted. Desires are polluted, unwanted results are achieved, and thus everything is ruined. Therefore, those who have a desire for pure devotional service should perform devotional service with firm confidence. I feel like I'm just going to stop there because just be good just to hear that and just leave it at that. The next section is not that short. It's not that long either, so maybe I could do that in the next one. Oh, I don't know. So, at any rate, that's confidence. It's interesting how confidence, when you look at this whole section, he's talking about confidence in the instructions of the spiritual master, because you cannot, like you said, Maya is something that is very nearby, and one engages in Maya, and they enjoy the results or suffer the results. It's something nearby. It's something you don't need confidence or faith to do. You could just see it, touch it, and you just have it right there. But devotional service, Krishna consciousness, you have to have faith in the process. You have to have faith that Krishna is even there. You have to have confidence in what is being said. In all these, even these subtle philosophical points, you have to take faith in these things. But that goes away. Well, the blind faith, whatever, goes away when one gets a taste and they know it's real, and then that really solidifies your confidence. Then one becomes permanently fixed, and then one becomes steady. And that's why he gave that explanation of the process of development of devotional service from Shraddha to associating with devotees and so on and so forth. So, a very interesting style of writing. He kind of explained everything. Well, there's just so much here. It's amazing. It's really amazing. He explains what's useful and unuseful information, and he settles on amnaya, knowledge from the spiritual master in scripture. And then he breaks down what is the important, that there's different types of knowledge from amnaya, and the thing that's most important is, transcendental knowledge. And then he goes into the 8 truths of transcendental knowledge, the nine truths, and then the 10th one. And I wonder if these truths are directly related to the different cantos of the Bhagavatam, because basically you have, you're trying to understand what is the absolute truth, what is God, and the subject matter of each canto brings you closer. And ultimately, when you get to the 10th canto, there is, there is no question. It's prema. It's prema. That's what everyone is. That's the level that all the Brajavasis is at. And all these details on the way there about the different types or the different subject matters. there. So you have like the ninth principle is Raganuga Bhakti. One's doing the rules and regulations with forceful, spontaneous service. Well, what's the main story in the ninth? There's a few main stories in there, but they're advanced devotees. Like the one that jumps to my mind is about Maharaj Ambarish and his fight with. He's described as doing, he followed the rules and regulations, but he did them all spontaneously. Which is, basically, which is Raga Bhakti. He describes that here. And Raganuga Bhakti is an imitation of the devotees of the Brajavasis. I'm not sure where that is covered in the Bhagavatam, but somewhere in that ninth canto area, and possibly even in the 10th canto, where Krishna sends Uddhava. I mean, Uddhava, you don't find Uddhava imitating the devotees of Vrindavan, not that I can think of, but Krishna sends Uddhava to see the devotees in Vrindavan after the fact of Krishna's childhood pastimes. But he sends him there for the explicit purpose of showing him the intense devotion that the devotees in Vrindavan have, to further enlighten him. So, a lot of interesting connections that one can make in reading this, and I just kind of want to go back and read this again, because so many details about what is matter and what is spirit, and on all these different levels of consciousness have been explained. Because basically you can see everything in either a material or a spiritual way, and Bhaktivinoda Thakura makes that pretty clear by the way he writes this. So, yeah, in the beginning I didn't have my microphone on. I turned it off, then I forgot to turn it back on, and I read the first paragraph, and maybe that's why some of you were confused at first and couldn't hear me. I think it was because of that, and then, and there's a 15-second delay. Then I turn it on. That may have happened. So, yeah, I don't know, go back and listen to it again. I think it was maybe 30 minutes, but this whole thing on confidence is, this is, I don't know, when I think about this, I think this is like everything. This is everything. Because if you have confidence in the philosophy, and you have confidence in the spiritual master, then you won't see any need to change the philosophy, or you won't need to see any need to do anything different. You'll just, if there's problems, you just realize that you're just not following well enough, or maybe your understanding is off. But you'll always, your angle of vision, you'll always strive to see it through the angle of vision of the spiritual master. You won't try to, take something else as an authority. You won't try to take somebody else as an authority. You'll always try to say, my authority is Srila Prabhupada. My authority is my spiritual master. The books of Prabhupada or the Vedas. That's my authority. So how do I see the world like that? And not try to change it or make it new to meet the pleasure of people within this material world. And therefore, in the beginning, that one line is very important, that when one who is serious about achieving perfection hears this amnaya, knowledge from the spiritual master, it enlightens them and enlivens them. And therefore, one can say that if you see people enthusiastic for doing vidi, rules and regulations, or following things, and claiming that it's just as equal as, or it's okay, that it doesn't lower a standard, someone who's ignorant of that, but it's not actually the standard given by Srila Prabhupada or given in the Vedas, then you can know that they're not interested in perfection. And I mean, obviously perfection is a very high standard, but that is ultimately what one needs to understand clearly, if they want to go to the spiritual world. If you want to associate with Krishna, you have to know what is perfection, because Krishna doesn't enjoy on any level other than perfection. That's the only level Krishna wants to enjoy on, is the level of perfection. I mean, he'll, throw everyone a bone and he'll help everyone out, but him personally, he's always there enjoying perfectly. And we all have the opportunity to go there, which is actually amazing. We all have that opportunity. It's just kind of left in our hands. And a big part of that being left in our hands is we have to have our knowledge straight. But you can't have your knowledge straight if you don't have confidence in the spiritual master, or you don't have confidence in the knowledge given by the Guru Parampara. I guess that's the best way to put it. Because everyone in the Guru Parampara is our spiritual master. That's why this is so important. And I think that our confidence in Srila Prabhupada for some reason has been shaken over time because of the difficulties within ISKCON. And so I think, but not only that, but our faith in the Guru Parampara has been shaken. Not within just ISKCON, but also the deviations that have happened as Kali Yuga has gone on, over the last, couple hundred years. There were a lot of deviations. And, with the modern way of thinking and acting and trying to fit in with everybody. So, anyway, that's a whole different subject. But, just simply having confidence will undercut all the illusion that one might have about, or confusion one might have about what is knowledge and what is not knowledge. And so it's a very good section to read and listen to. So give it another read later on, and maybe you'll have some more understanding of it, because it's very, very powerful. Jai. Okay, well, I'll stop there. Thank you so much for tuning in, all of you that did tune in, and I imagine more people will listen to this as it comes out in a video later. So next Wednesday we'll come back and we'll continue reading. Next week, or this Wednesday, not next, but this coming Wednesday. Next is Patience, Dharya, and we'll try to read Patience and Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat. Various activities favorable for devotional service. It's a very big section. I might or might not get through the whole thing, but we'll see. So, thank you very much. Shri Krishna ki jai, Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai, Hare Krishna.